I remember one of my guys gave a warning. There was this was riding on this motorcycle. He's coming full head of steam towards us. Takes a shot, shoots the right in the chest. And I remember being in the hospital with Greg and holding his piece of his so his didn't like come out. Man, I was getting angry about nothing. Like somebody dropped a pencil and I'm angry. I don't know why. And then also, seeing my daughter like struggle too, scared of this angry man every now and again. Like I'm just over there just angry all the time. And she loved me to death, but then she's terrified of me. Not sure if I'm gonna be happy daddy one day or angry daddy the next, right? I think it kind of goes back to that Alpha Committee instructor I had. He told me something that has always stuck to me. He said, SF, you gotta always be cool. I was like, man, what are you talking about? Gotta wear sunglasses that look real cool? And have a nice haircut or something like that? I mean, always gotta look cool. What does it mean? And so Brennan Galtrey, a hero that he is. And if you ever hear about Brennan's story, Brennan got shot with a 50 cal in the 82nd. And he told me, he said something, he said, Chane, I usually wait for the biggest blast to hit the squelch. So he would wait for the biggest blast to then call it in, and he'd call it real cool and calm. And he's like, hey, we're under fire. We're troops in contact, and let the headquarters know so they give him whatever he needed, right? Yeah. So I think, one of the things, Brendan, he coached me through that. He's like, Chane, you gotta be cool, you gotta be calm. And then I was like, oh, that's what the instructor meant. That's cool, calm, and collect. You always gotta be cool and calm and not show that anxiety. Of course, I'm anxious, right? I got a lot of fear. And everything's rolling through my mind. Like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? Like, oh my goodness. But just being calm, taking a breather, keeping that calmness and coolness and collectiveness is good, especially when your guys are sitting there, you're under a lot of stress, they're under a lot of stress, and them seeing you kind of calm and relax on the radio, calling in what you need to call in, getting the resources you need available. So we were out on an objective, and we had just got done with this firefight. I mean, we got, and this was in support of Dave and the guys over in 2-4. We're coming up. And I remember one of my guys gave a warning. He was riding on this motorcycle. He's coming full head of steam towards us. Takes a shot, shoots the in the chest. I was like, oh shoot. Didn't give a warning. And I was like, oh man. Definitely a stressful moment because the kid was 12. Dad gets on the scene. They're high stress, and I'm calling in the medevac. One thing that made sure at the moment is to keep my calm in that situation. I was like, okay, this is bad. We gotta save this kid's life. Of course, my guy was, he was under a lot of stress. He had just got through a firefight. He didn't know if this guy was gonna blast off or ID. He didn't know what was going on. He couldn't tell what the age of the kid was either. I understood that. We evacuated the kid. I remember holding the kid, keeping that pressure, John, Clark, everybody, we're all on top of this kid trying to make sure he gets back. And we wound up saving the kid's life. And I remember talking to my guys and just being like, hey, things happen. And I reported up accurately. I said, hey, this is how it went down. I expected him to kind of come down with a heavy hammer. And Brooks didn't. He was like, hey, accidents happen on the battlefield. I need you to kind of keep the team together and just make sure guys are getting what they need. Because maybe they're under a lot of stress right now, and it's getting close to the end of the deployment, it's real close, So I was able to turn to the guys and make sure they had my full support. Now I had to pull a couple folks off the line after that because, like I told you, it's time to get some rest because you're under high tension. Your fingers real hot on the trigger. So
you're talking about months of sustained combat.
It was months of sustained. These guys were getting burnt out, so. That was one of the things where I just had to kind of step in there. Another thing was one of the stories that I'm sure the guys remember was when Master Sergeant Gregory Trent came back, when he got evacuated. So at the time, Tony Fletcher, the Siege Soda commander, 7th Group commander, was out visiting our compound. I remember Colonel Fletcher was just kind of in there hanging out and checking out, seeing how we're doing, and looking at our mission planning cycles and going through all the things and okay, checking this out. And he was about to go visit 2-4.
This the day Greg got shot?
Yeah. And I remember being in the hospital with Greg and holding his piece of his so his didn't come out. Not only me, but Tony Fletcher was next to me. group commander, he didn't give a damn. He was in there like, he was gonna make sure like Gregory got on the aircraft. I remember him getting on the phone and making sure that he got out of there, and all the guys, all of us were in there, man. And I mean, that was a hard moment for all of us, because I remember just standing there and us praying together, like, you know, like, hey, like at least let him get back to his family or something, right? And like, you know, the gauze, they were wrapping the gauze on him, you know, and I mean, again, here I am dealing with brain again, right? You know, fast forward from as a lieutenant to now as a senior captain. Now I'm like back in that same kind of situation. It kind of brought back those memories really fast. But, you know, to see the sergeant major also alongside us, the see the Soda sergeant major, Tommy, everyone, Dave had just flown back in, and we're all like sitting there in tears, like, you know, just praying that he can get out of this thing. And that was a tough moment for the team too, I think, because when we got back, you know, Tony got back, and you know, he's a phenomenal leader, and he just talked to everybody about like Master Sergeant Trent and just like, you know, what he did for us. And he talked about how we were out there performing as a team, and he gave a speech that just made me later understand why he became a 3-star general, right? Yeah. But at the same time, like the amount of care and passion he had really kind of helped me kind of turn to the team and say, hey, like, no, we got to be there for our teammates, and we got to support them no matter what. And that was a very tough moment, I think, for the team.
You know, I always try to tell people too, in law enforcement, when somebody dies in the States, you know, you wrap a thing around your badge. There's, you know, a couple days of mourning. You have time for the funeral. You have time to process. It still sucks, but overseas, man, like you don't get the time sometimes to process it because there's still work to do. Right. How did you guys balance all that?
It was a very difficult thing to balance because, I mean, I was also kind of at a loss at the moment. And I'm sure he was full of anxiety. I mean, I wanted to support him as much as possible, but at the same time, I wanted to support Greg, right, at the time. Like, I wanted to, like, no matter what, be there for him to kind of help him through this, right? I knew that Dave was suffering because that was his teammate, his colleague. It was also mine too, right? So I was also going through my own suffering, you know, but being there for him and encouraging him, listening and being that ear, especially when we got back, to kind of talk through that. We later had a memorial service again. Like, you know, you just gotta not letting up on that. But that was the whole team. Like we were all close. It wasn't like we were distant neighbors. All of us knew each other really well. So it was like, oh man, like that's one of our guys, man. Like even if he's not on our team, like he's, you know, one of our guys that we know and we train with.
Did that really reverberate through your team as well? I mean, did it?
Oh yeah. I think everybody it hit hard. You know, you don't ever want to see one of your guys get shot. Anybody in your organization, but you don't want to see anybody get shot, especially an American that you've been serving with. But it hit hard home. It hit really hard.
I mean, you guys at that time, I think by the time Greg was killed, I mean, I think Egleston had already been killed.
Yes.
And I think there was a couple others. And you guys were getting towards, I mean, that was towards the end of your trip. I know Carl had been blown off a rooftop and, you know, was dealing with TBI stuff. And how did that all affect, you know, the battle space?
I mean, you know, you could tell the guys were getting battle fatigue. Now, instead of, remember I told you that S3 came on and gave me the speech? Now I'm giving the speech to my guys about, hey, we can't get complacent, right? Yeah. Like, we got to stay on our P's and Q's. And I was also, you know, Tommy and I were deciding, like, we're making some hard decisions on who should go and who shouldn't go on missions, because we're starting to get to the point where guys were starting to get a little bit beyond exhausted. So some hard decisions had to be made. And you had to be really supportive of your guys, especially when they start talking to you, because now you also run into the issues where the families were starting to, you know, become a thing, right? Families were starting to tear apart because the guy's been gone for so long, or they didn't know how to deal with certain things at home, and so that it was like, it definitely, you know, hit the families at home when they're hearing about these different, you know, special forces team members dying. I mean, the guys are hearing that from their families, right? And like, oh shoot, what's going on out there? And so it's tough. It was tough, but you know, I don't think we changed how we did business. I just think we changed, like, we just recognized the fact that battle fatigue was occurring. And I think it was a very conscious choice to go on missions and like pick and choose the right ones to go on. And that's where I was telling you, like, where I started making some choices and talking to command, like, hey, I want to go on that. I know it's a heavy hit, but is this a necessary target right now, or can we opt in and do this tomorrow, or can I roll this over 48? Just to give the guys a little bit of a brain break, because I know they just had come back from a mission or whatever the day prior or whatever.
At any point, did you start to feel your own mortality?
That's a good question. I had normally gotten to the point where I had decided that if I'm going over, that this might be the last trip.
So you kind of like disassociate?
Yeah, I kind of disassociate. Now I do recognize that I have my daughter, and I didn't want to disassociate with her. And so that did kind of weigh on my soul a little bit, because I didn't want her growing up without a father. But at the same time, I recognize that you have to do what you got to do for the mission, right? Now, of course, that was my last, I would say, tactical fighting deployment, that one. And it did hit me hard, coming back and then them inserting me into regular society and sending me to graduate school. I wasn't ready for that. I didn't really have a good transition. So, and I think that's when I started experiencing a lot of the battle, battle fatigue and like PTSD and all that stuff post that. But I think during that, yes, I did accept the fact that I potentially may not come home, that this may be the last. And then if it is, it is. But every moment I got to share with my daughter was a moment I got to cherish, right? Hoping that, maybe I would be able to see her, but I couldn't let that prevent me from doing what I needed to do, especially with the guys to my left and right, because your team is they're depending on you, right? And if you, at any moment in time, hesitate or have that slight bit of like, hey, I can't, because I got to get home, and people die, right? And I knew that. And I knew that that's what it would look like. So I did my best to not think on that, to know that I love them and they love me, and then I'm gonna get back. But it also started to seem that my post-traumatic stress disorder kind of came out, and this is kind of where I destroyed my own family, because I didn't know how to regulate my emotions at the time. I didn't know how to not go from 0 to 100. And I talked about being calm, cool, collected on the battlefield, but then at home I couldn't be calm, cool, and collected for some reason. I didn't know why, and I struggled with that. And I was afraid to tell somebody or talk to people about it, because I didn't want to lose my career, right? I didn't want them to kick me out, being like, hey, dude, you got post-traumatic stress disorder, you need to get out. And I was like, man, I don't want to end my career, and to my own fault, it took me a while to actually go get help for that. So and I think that last appointment definitely brought me over the edge. I was gone at that point, mentally, and I knew it too. I could tell, even with the sense of like, hey, I'm gonna go be an ORSA right now, which I was happy about doing, to the point where I was like, yeah, I don't know if I can handle another one, not like that, right? Yeah. So I was like, oh, let me try to get to a space where I could be safe. But I think, the biggest issue, especially with the military back then and with the Army, is being able to transition a soldier from this battlefield of 100 miles an hour you're going, where you're even coming back and you're training 100 miles an hour and you're going back, and I did that for 10, 11 years.
Because when you're in that cycle, you don't have to stop. I equate it to I call it being on the run. And your head becomes a bad neighborhood. And so you really only go in your head to get the things you need, but you try to stay out of the neighborhood. And how do you do that? By staying busy, by staying gone, by training. Right. And then when you got to go to grad school and you don't have that, you got to
stay in the neighborhood.
Yeah, man, you spend a lot of time in the neighborhood, and it becomes an issue. And then guys start turning to drugs and alcohol and all the different things, and it spirals. And it's something we talk about a lot on this podcast. Post-traumatic and trauma. Trauma's trauma. You can get trauma from war. You can also get trauma from a really shitty childhood, and it's good to hear that you finally kind of came to terms with that. What do you think was the things that you're finally like, yo, man, I'm not okay,
I think it was, Sandra kicking me out of the house, me having to be like, all right, like now I'm away from my family. I'm separated from my family. So being separated from my family for a little bit, instead of turning towards more anger, I decided I need help. Man, I was getting angry about nothing, like little things, right? Little things. I think that's kind of what helped me kind of see like, hey, I know I shouldn't be angry about this, man. I don't know why I'm getting angry about this. Like somebody dropped a pencil and I'm angry. I don't know why. Like, like this is ridiculous, right? Shoot. So, and then also, you know, seeing my daughter like struggle too, like, you know, scared of this angry man every now and again. Like I'm just over there just angry all the time. And she loved me to death, but then she's terrified of me, right? Not sure if I'm gonna be happy daddy one day or angry daddy the next, right? And like I could not have that. So yeah, I went and got help and said, hey, I need help. And I still see my counselor today, like once a month.